All right, we all know about warranty nightmares. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated. If your warranty process still involves sticky notes, tribal knowledge, and late night claims rejections, you're leaving money on the table. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated brings clarity, compliance, and cash flow to your warranty game. They speak fluent OEM, and they've got your back. Hey, I want to encourage you to take a visit over to our partner, Target Automotive, at target.com. That is great until you're drowning in it. Target turns that chaos into clarity with dashboards that actually make sense. Fixed Ops leaders finally get what they need: real-time, drill-down insights without the spreadsheet migraines. It's not just business intelligence, it's Target.
Welcome to the Fixed Ops Mastermind Podcast. I am Kyle Morissette, Chief Revenue Officer for TechWall by Gratis Solutions. Today, I am joined by a very good friend of mine, McKenna M.K. Valley, who is the CEO and co-founder of SparkServe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kyle. It's so nice for you to have me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we've done a little back and forth trying to get our schedules to mix, but here we are, and I'm excited for the show.
Yeah, likewise. I can't wait to hear what you think. I think you're always a great sparring partner and thought partner. So yeah, let's, I guess, dive in and fix Fixed Ops once and for all.
I love it. One foot in front of the other, and everybody getting together, getting together so we can be great together. I love it. So your career, as once you got, through school and everything else, didn't bring you to Fixed Ops. You've traveled the world and done a bunch of awesome things. Talk to me about, the start of your career and how did you end up in automotive?
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a winding path to find myself in automotive as a small town girl from southeastern Michigan. I guess I was always destined to be in automotive, but I definitely tried to stray away. I was always really interested in software and also venture capital. A lot of people think that, the best idea wins, but in reality, with venture capital funding, it's the technology of tomorrow is decided in a closed door meeting between 5 or 6 guys who view a couple pitches and figure out what's fundable and what we're going to work with in the future. So I was always really curious about the startup scene. How can we build better technology that actually fuels the businesses of tomorrow, and having an equitable shot to that? So I've always worked at software companies, spent a little foray in venture capital when I was living in Amsterdam, moved back to the States, started my own company, and realized that actually changing it or adapting it to automotive is probably the best way that I could give back to this community that I grew up in.
That's awesome. So, we're talking to us a little bit about SparkServe. Tell us about what you guys do, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So SparkServe is a dedicated service CRM. So what that means is that we're reading the DMS, the CRM, we're actively pulling recalls in real time, we're showing upcoming tasks and disseminating tasks to reps who are making the calls for dealers to schedule service appointments. We also have a universal scheduling API. So regardless of which scheduler or which tech stack a dealer or multiple dealerships within a dealer group are using, they can use one platform to make all of their activities versus what they were traditionally doing, which is using Google Sheets, maybe getting physical pieces of paper on their desk to call people, logging into the CRM to get the phone number, the DMS to set an appointment, or the scheduler to set an appointment, logging their activity, writing down that they contacted them in the Excel sheet, and then moving on. It was just not productive or really trackable. It was very hard to pinpoint basically the return on investment for BDCs, when in reality, fixed ops is the most profitable revenue stream at a dealer group, and the BDC is the sole demand generation engine for them. So tracking those actual dollars is quite important in making sure that we can capture more is what's going to save dealers when there's an economic downturn like we've had for the past couple of years.
For sure. It's funny that you say that because, for a lot of my career, special order parts would come in, parts department would run the sheets would get given to a manager would look to see what advisor dealt with it, and if the car was here or if we needed to book an appointment, and then it would either go to the BDC, back to a manager, or back to the advisor, and then it was, hey, give me notes on this, return it back to me, and then 2 days later, 5 days later, 10 days later, next thing you know, it's 12 months later, and now we have obsolescence. So definitely a challenge that needs to be monitored and taken care of. So it's definitely the right lane. And we've talked a lot about the future of fixed operations. Where's it going? How are we going to get stronger at the OEM side and stop this reduction in retention? There's a lot of areas where retention may be good just because they're the only game in town. I live that. But in these higher saturated areas where there's, 12 of the same manufacturer, there's plenty of option. But when all of them don't answer the phone, that option goes away and people are looking for whoever's going to answer the phone, whether it be an AI system or if it's a human or whatever it is. And that's where we lose our traction, to the independents. So what are your thoughts, beyond the piece that you have with SparkServe? What do we need to do as a community of OEMs to strengthen our hold and get our retention numbers back and get these customers coming to see us?
I think that's a good question with a million different ways you could go about saving the space. Cox's latest service industry report says that dealers only own 29% market share, which is down 1% from last year and down 4% from 5 years ago,
Yikes.
which is absurd.
Yeah.
And I think it boils down to our ability to answer three basic questions for the customer. And that's how soon or when can I get scheduled? How much will it cost and how long will it take? And the answers to those three questions live nowhere, not in the DMS, not in not on a list of repairs. It's all subjective, completely subjective. So when can I get serviced? Well, it depends on both advisors' availability, but more importantly, technicians' availability. How many cars are on deck to be repaired? The pricing is dependent on labor hours and the labor cost, the parts cost, the parts availability, and how long will it take is kind of the amalgamation of the two. I think the biggest thing we can do as dealers is invest in an integrated system of record, where we can track or maybe even predict some of those things. What generative AI is great at is recognizing patterns in large databases. And I think that's a really underutilized component for dealers. Like, you don't necessarily need another person on the phone or another person in your bay. You need another bit of data to actually interpret what you guys are able to achieve with the headcount that you have,
Sure.
so that we can communicate it accurately to the customer.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is, is really being able to understand the limitations that you have within your own team, right? So how many technicians do I have? What's their efficiency? How many physical hours could they turn in the day if everything went the way that it should? Those are factors. How good is my off-the-shelf fill, depending on what car it comes in? How quickly am I getting my special order parts back in, those customers back in to do the repairs? And am I judging that time properly? I think for a long time we've been scheduling against, the advisors are here this many hours, they can handle this many cars, and then we kind of throw it up in the air and see what sticks. I think the better operators now are saying, hey, I really need to look at the throughput of my shop, and that's really where I need to base my, a bulk of, what we're bringing in. But I think another thing is, for years, once we got this funny internet thing, it was, all right, well, let's try and make the phone stop ringing by trying to talk to our customers about booking an appointment online. Forever, everybody had a 10 or 15% off your main service if you booked your appointment online. And I've been having this conversation lately that booking an appointment online and folks going to Google is not what's happening now. I read a thing the other day that said people aren't going to Google; they're going to chat, and they're Chat, Gemini, whoever it may be, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I think another step forward for the folks that are using AI answering or AI bots to do their thing. The ones that have added text messaging and started to coach their customers on, hey, when you need an appointment, you have a question on your car or anything like that, save this phone number and text in. That's your new standard for online appointments. And it's really made to alleviate the phone from ringing unless it's somebody that really needs to get in touch with us. And, how often does it happen that you have somebody stuck on the side of the road or, in a panic or whatever it is, and they can't get in touch with us because we're on the phone doing something that something else could be doing or somebody else could be doing or whatever. So I think it's our availability is where we lose all of our traction. And, the independents don't. They answer the phone. It's interesting to see now that I'm on this side of the fence and the fact that I talk to OEMs, independents, everything else. I can call a dealership and who knows when I'm going to get somebody on the phone, depending on the store. But you know what happens when I call an independent? They answer the phone. And they're ready, and they're ready to help. So I think that's really hitting the nail on the head. We need to take our data, use it to our advantage, and then be available because we're using all these things that are available to us to give us that time back. Does that make sense?
Quick break in the action. Let's talk parts. Yeah, that corner of the dealership most people don't look at until there's a fire. Parts Edge helps you clean up that mess. Smarter inventory, better margins, and no more guessing games. It's like giving your parts manager a crystal ball, except this one actually works. Spiffy. You can manage your mobile appointments, optimize your service routes, track inventory, and process payments, all with Spiffy, and you can learn more at spiffy.com. You ever wish you could inspect every car like a tech with X-ray vision? UVI is like an MRI for your car. UVI doesn't miss a thing. Scans the tires, the underbody, body panels, and wheels for scuffs in seconds, giving your team instant, actionable intel without slowing down the lane. That's not the future. That's UVI, and it's live in stores today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the example of independence where they actually answer the phone. We actually, like back in the day, trialed building a bot that answers the phone and schedules appointments or responds to questions for our customers. And what we found is that 40% of the inbound calls were not revenue generating and couldn't be handled by a bot because they were a specific question about a specific vehicle, a specific pricing or duration question, a question for parts. We've just made it so opaque for our customers to get even basic information about their vehicle from the time that they drop it off to the time that they pick it up, that adding more people to answer the phones is not necessarily the right option. It's having a reliable source of truth answer the phones.
Yes.
So when you call an indie shop, you get the guy who runs the shop who yells across it to say, hey, what's the status on that Subaru Outback? Or they're turning wrenches themselves.
Sure.
But when you call a dealership, there are so many moving parts, and God love them, techs and advisors, and even parts managers. They don't write things down. They don't use the DMS as a system of record because it's clunky and difficult and time consuming, and it makes them go slower. But it also makes it impossible for anyone who has not touched the repair order or the vehicle to know what's going on. And that leads to customer discontent, in my view.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff with TechWall is and honestly anybody that I'm demoing right now, trying to stay in the loop and demoing before I came onto this side was for the the technician side, and even for the advisors, hey, when they're putting information in, do we have voice command? Is there anything that we can do to make it so that it's faster, it's less mouse clicks, less typing, less printing, less whatever? And can we formulate a way to communicate internally inside of this tool where it makes sense? And I came to this product because I believe in what it does, and I believe it can be a one-stop shop for a lot of things. That said, I think that there's a lot of things that we still need to integrate with and partner with in order to make our tool better. So, your tool can integrate with so many different things that can really streamline the processes for everybody. So I think the more us as partners partner together and then partner with the dealers, it's going to be easier for the dealers to be able to gain that market share back. But I truly think that it takes being a partner and a partner and a partner and a partner. And I think that's what I'm learning more and more as I continue to network and learn, different people, and spa with you every once in a while, and Kaylee, and, come up with these ideas. Not everything's going to stick, but if we don't put them out there, they're never going to happen. So I just think that's the way we need to go is really work together and stop the craziness of, hey, I'm trying to build this, I'm going to scale it so that it makes us all this money and everything else. At the end of the day, if I have 6 clients that are truly happy, I'm good. Because,
Yeah.
not that I don't want everybody that's out there, but if you don't want to, I want to be great at who I'm serving and be that true partner. And if I can't do that with those people, whether they don't agree or want to do it or whatever it is, then, hey, it's not going to work. But I love all the different things that you bring to the table. And I think you and Kaylee were working on some collaboration, if I'm not mistaken. How's that going?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's going. I think the biggest thing that Kaylee and I have seen, and for anyone listening who doesn't know who Kaylee is, we're talking about Kaylee Fellio, the parts girl
Yeah.
at Parts Edge. She's one, a fantastic human being, and two, incredibly collaborative and solutions oriented. But yeah, one of the big questions that we were looking at is how can we prevent a customer from showing up in the service bay and have the part not be available?
Right.
Um, or how can we use parts that have been sitting on the shelf and are approaching obsolescence and find opportunities in the database to reach out to so that we can actually get a higher percentage of parts utilization? Um, Two of things which I think are like criminally underutilized. People don't put enough care, I think, into the actual back office work that it takes to run and maintain an optimal fixed ops engine. People are very focused on the customer interaction, but they forget that you have to have all of the tools in place in order to create a solid customer interaction.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I think that's one of the big mountains that we as an industry have to climb is how are we keeping people in the loop? And there's a lot we've considered there. I mean, we have built into our own platform the ability to automatically notify parts if an appointment is scheduled for a recall that has a strict replace. So no inspection, no figuring out if the vehicle is affected. If it's a strict replacement that requires a part, they are getting an email straight away. We've also looked at other notification methods for that, like a Teams notification that will automatically follow up on any vehicle that has a parts need, um, and check and see if it was ordered, if we can provide a status update to the customer, if their vehicle is still in the shop, if that appointment is still showed and not yet completed.
Sure.
I think there's a million rocks to turn over in this space,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the fun thing that you and I get to do
Every
is
day.
look at people we care about and see what they have to do every day and see if we can just make it 1% better with each iteration of our products.
And if you think about it, for the small amount of people that we have in our networks, right? So when we look at whether it's our LinkedIn network, the people that we talk to on a daily basis, whatever it is, there's so many people that we have yet to learn yet that we are going to care about, that we need to help, that either haven't figured out that they need that help, or they're there and just trying to figure out who belongs with who. But I think one of the things that you said there was, so if it's alerting the parts department that this appointment's been scheduled, has that appointment been scheduled out far enough for the part to be ordered and arrive? I love it.
I mean, that's the ideal, and that's what Kaylee and I are working on. Is basically, can we block the availability in the calendar for the agent taking the call if the part is not available, and push it out 5-7 days, to ensure that we have time to actually meet that customer's need.
That's a
Or is there a way that we can check the availability as the appointment date approaches? And if the part is not in, can we automate an AI powered text to the customer to reschedule the appointment for a couple days out? Um, and that's really where I think our product is going, is how can we reach the customer outbound without a call, without burdening the customer, and let them know that we can meet a need that they didn't yet know they had, and then execute on that.
imagine
So
how a text message would work. That's so amazing.
I
You know,
mean, I don't know if text is like the be all end all solution for automotive. I would really love if I don't know if you're familiar with ZocDoc, but I think it would be amazing if there was a ZocDoc for your car, or if more OEMs um, embraced like a proactive maintenance model where they can manage their vehicle's health
I'm going to.
via the OEM.
I'm writing that down as we as we're going. Um,
Well, make sure you just give me 1% of whatever company you start. Little inside tip,
I
but
I think there's so much that gets missed from an obsolescence standpoint in a parts department. And when you mentioned being able to look at our obsolescence and find alternatives for us to be able to get those parts out there, you see I've taken over some stores that have been really in trouble when it came to obsolescence, which reduces the amount that you can have on the shelf, and it's just a complete snowball effect. And then what ends up happening is you have to make a decision. Are we writing this off? Are we accruing money so that we can write it off? And then if we do, are we throwing the parts away? Or we keep them on the shelf and hoping for a rainy day? Or are we going to one of those supply chains that'll, at best give me 50 cents on the dollar? You having this alternative there to be able to move these parts and hopefully be able to hold more gross, also gets these parts off the shelf so that you're getting really good inventory in, so they have less and less. I mean, off the shelf fill rate is so important, and um, oftentimes doesn't get looked at as much as it should. So, where's my obsolescence? What does that mean for what I have on the shelf? What does that mean for my on the shelf, off the shelf fill rate? Am I accepting the parts that should be coming in? But what we don't look at is the delay that puts on the technician, the additional parking spaces for cars that are broken down, the advisor being, and then ultimately the most important part of this is not being able to take care of a guest in a timely fashion. And then, that part of it just makes normal thinking, well, I don't have anything good to say, so why would I want to call this customer? And now we just continue this snowball effect that just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then what ends up happening, unless it's a warranty repair, eventually the customer says, the heck with this, I'm out. I'm going to go find somebody that's going to fix it. And the worst part about that is that they're going to put an aftermarket part on the car.
hmm
And who knows how that's going to go, or how long it's going to last, what the warranties are. Like, there's no coverage. And the next part of it is, because they're not servicing regularly with their OEM, the ability for the dealer to be able to try and help the customer when they're slightly out of warranty, whatever it is, that disappears. So, like,
hmm
this whole thing really relates to communication and having the right stuff available at the right time. You know what I mean? Does that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the ideal state would be, let's run an entire analysis on our parts, our database, see what's sitting stagnant, see what parts are going to be utilized in the next 30 days with existing upcoming appointments, and then figure out what parts were better suited to sell or return, and what parts can we actively utilize, and what's that utilization rate going to look like. The trouble is, I do not know a single fixed ops director who is fine tooth combing through all of that data to run like a true econometric analysis on it. And that's a failing not of the dealer, not of the fixed ops director, not of the CFO. It's a failing of us as vendors. Dealers are not meant to be data scientists. But we, as vendors, are meant to put a tool that allows them to make a better decision in
Yeah.
their hands.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of DMSs have failed dealers. I mean, I won't name names, but if it's over, if they've got more than 1,000 dealers on it, they're probably guilty of this in
Absolutely.
some regard. Like, we're not setting dealers up for success today as vendors. And where we should be moving towards is how can we empower them to make better data driven decisions that win back market share?
Sure.
Because every percentage point that we lose in service market share is a percentage less of demand that we can expect to generate in future years as vendors. Our success is intrinsically tied to the success of our customers.
For sure.
Um, and I think we could do a better job, like across the board as vendors, of providing better data and using AI to do what it's meant to do, which is like machine learning and pattern recognition, not be a human.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, and we've been saying this for a long time on fixed, on FOM, and it's not made to replace people. It's made to empower people to be able to work in a better, faster, more productive way by gaining information far quicker than we would be able to decipher it ourselves as humans. And I agree with you 100% when it comes to the vendor side. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I have is, I'm demoing this product and people are in love with it, but the reality is that they're scared, right? They've been burned so many times, and all right, great, you tell me all these things. Yeah, I get it. You were in Fix for a long time, and you're selling me on the fact that you're going to be a partner, that your team's going to be there. All these things are happening, but it's really hard for me to agree to that because I've been burned by it so much. And for me, I understand that statement because I live it. I understand that people have told me that, hey, we can do this or we can do that or whatever it is. And in reality, I've challenged so much to some of the vendors that I worked with and said, hey, I need these things, that they outright came out and said, can't do it. This is how the program works, and either deal with it or not. I think tools like us at Tech Wall, and I think you for sure, are able to completely meld to what each individual dealer needs and how they need to operate and how we can actually filter in and be a partner. I mean, uh, how many times have I talked to you and you've been in a service drive or you're in a parts department or whatever it is, and for somebody that's quote unquote an outsider, you're diving in and trying to understand it and be in the lanes and be with the people that are that you're trying to help. That's a partner, and I applaud you for all the effort that you put into it. I mean, boy, do you work hard. I know that because I have the luxury of being able to talk to you, text you, and check in on you and see what's going on. But you're right. That's what we owe our clients, is exactly that effort. And as much as you say that you have some AI piece in there, I know damn well that some of that AI has been NK.
Yeah, I mean, definitely bits of it. But that's the goal, right? I mean, you have the experience and the benefit of knowing exactly who you serve and what you're helping them to do. And that's partially why I've spent so much time in the service drive, is because I am an outsider. Who am I to come in and tell someone how something should work without first like doing it or experiencing it myself? I will go to our customers and sit in there and actually make the calls and use my own product and see why it sucks, because there's always a reason
Yeah.
why it sucks to use. Um, but like, I think dealers have been screwed, frankly, by the vendors in this space, both financially and from a service perspective. And that's the absolute opposite of what I know you and I want to provide. Like,
Right.
that's why it's important for me to go on site and listen to the single mom with no degree who's sitting in a BDC, who's never worked an automotive job before, and figure out what I can do to make her successful so she can earn an extra $100 in commission this month,
Yeah.
so that she can pay to put her kids through sports. Like, as a vendor, it's so easy to lose the plot and chase annual recurring revenue. But at the end of the day, like, that's who I serve. I serve the single mom in the BDC who's trying to make ends meet. And I want nothing more than to put more commission in her pocket. And by the way, if you listen to your end users, you might just come up with some extraordinary ideas that change the game.
Absolutely.
Um, I think it's just like heartbreaking as a vendor to see the level of complacency that these people who are working their asses off day in and day out have come to expect. You know, we've we have an obligation to the people we serve to provide an outsized return.
And, how many folks in any position, right, from a valet to a BDC rep to an advisor to a counterperson in parts, whatever, have great ideas, but they either are afraid or they're not heard or they don't want to bring something to the forefront because they're afraid of the result or what's going to happen, right? But you're 100% right. And, Tanner and I say this in every demo that we're in is we're built by fixed operators for fixed operators, and we are a true team. We know we have a great product. What we are better at than anybody else is we're going to be there to support, live, and be there with their teams. When somebody signs a contract and comes on and uses TechWall as a partner, it becomes mine and my owners and Tanner's and our whole team's responsibility. Just like if I was sitting at the desk as a fixed ops director, I'm responsible for every single one of those employees and their families to make sure I'm doing everything I can to put my best foot forward so that everybody lives a better life. And we're ingraining that in our staff here. Our developers feel the same way. Two of our developers are technicians, former technicians rather. So we understand what happens, right? If the part's not there and the tech can't turn the hours and it gets delayed into the next pay period, well, those hours that tech needed to make, he or she was depending on those hours for groceries this week, whatever it may be. If we're not getting that information clearly out there and giving them the opportunity to, take care of their families, then my product shouldn't be on their in their world. So we, I think we get along so well because we're very aligned in the aspect of that we care about everybody else kind of more than we care about ourselves. At the end of the day, we want to obviously, do the best we can for ourselves, but we can't do that if we don't worry about the people that we're with consistently first. So
Mhm.
I applaud you for that for sure.
I mean, likewise, I feel like I learn a lot from people who've been in the industry forever, and that's where the best founders come from, honestly, is people who have done it and experienced the pain and are so fed up with it that they want to fix something. So, I'm really excited to see the future of TechWall. I think you guys are going to change the game because you care about doing it. This is not a this is not an experiment. It's a calling.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful product, and I'm really happy that Sephora created it. Mrs. Long, our CEO, she owns stores. She saw the problem and she needed to take care of her people. So that's why I came over. But one thing that I guess so. What are you noticing as you're traveling through the country? Is it the same problem over and over and over again, or are you seeing that there's in certain areas it's better than others, or what's your experience with that?
I mean, I think the same problem over and over is a big part of it. So I think for a long time, especially over the last 10 years, as we've transitioned to call to schedule to web scheduling or to even some of these, like, I don't know, the recall schedulers
Yeah,
that notify people and get them in, all that stuff. There's kind of a paralysis in BDCs where they're like, oh, we're so busy, we can't stop answering the phones. We don't have any bandwidth to do outbound, and it's not a lack of bandwidth for the most part. It's a lack of know-how. Like it takes a lot of work to go in and download a lead list and disseminate it to your team, and for them to exhaust that list and then come back to their manager and ask for more work. Most people who are working hourly don't really care if they have more work.
right.
And a lot of times, these BDC reps are not given any commission, so they're not really incentivized to do anything other than answer the phone as it rings inbound,
Sure.
which we totally see in market share. Like, dealers own more than 80% of vehicle sales in the United States, and they own 29% of
29% of the
market share
service.
for service.
That's crazy.
There's an an incredible amount of inactive data in your CRM, in your DMS that is never being
Yeah.
utilized. Um, and that's kind of the problem that we go in and solve. So we'll run recurrent daily lists that disseminate tasks automatically to reps. When they burn through that list, we'll send them the next attempt or the next new lead group list or the next action to take. And what we've seen is people going from like 4,000 activities a month to then 11,000 activities a month just because they know what they need to do next and why they need to do it. Um, it's really that simple. People want to work and they want to be good at what they do. They don't want to sit on their phone and play Candy Crush all day. At least not in a not in a call center. They don't. They'd rather do that at home.
What about
Uh,
Monopoly Go? Is that better than Candy Crush or?
I don't know, man. Are people playing Monopoly Go? I'm not a big phone games girl, but yeah, I think a lot of it's just not knowing where to start
Yeah.
or not knowing who to reach out to. People will call, like, we have a customer who, before they started with us, was doing 4,000 dials a month just to people who were inactive that they hadn't seen in 19 to 48 months. And I'm like, what are you calling and saying? They're like, oh, well, we haven't seen you in a while.
Do you
How about an
still own
order?
the car?
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's so many like really wonderful ways to re-engage that are compelling and time sensitive, and I think like people just don't have enough confidence in their marketing ability to utilize private offers or to offer coupons or discounts,
Sure.
um, because this is ultimately like a marketing effort. So I think a lot of it's just I don't know who to call and what to say,
Yeah.
and that's where we come into play. Is let's look at the offers on your website. We'll set up a recurring daily lead list that will disseminate to your reps, and they know exactly what they're offering to, who they're offering it to, why they're offering it, and when they can come in.
So this is where you said you wanted to spar a little bit with me. So I guess this is where we'll do it. So um, the question that I have now is the stores that you're working with that have a AI phone bot slash text bot, email bot. When you're creating these lists for outbound, one, I would assume just from me using a bot in my store and what it did to allow my human BDC to be able to do more tasks. Between using the AI to outbound those lists and programming the AI to say, hey, these are the discounts, this is whatever it is, or being able to use your human staff to be able to not take those monotonous calls that the bot can handle. What is the you may not have the data yet. It may be too soon or whatever it may be. But the stores that have an AI performance bot that's helping the BDC against not, which one's performing harder or better?
So yeah, maybe unpopular opinion. So we have both human reps that are using our service CRM, our universal scheduler, and we also have an AI SMS agent that will do outbound text messages on, like I mentioned, that 19 to 48 month retention list
Mhm.
where they do not want to hear from you. The conversion rate is incredibly low. It would be an insane waste of time to make a human do 4,000 dials a month on a lead list like that.
Mhm.
That's like the perfect use case, in my view, for outbound text AI. But what we see for stores that are using like an inbound bot that takes calls and schedules calls is that the highest conversion rate we've seen with our customers who are using that for the AI that takes the call is about 82%.
Okay.
The lowest performing human being that takes an inbound call, their conversion rate is about 90%.
Hmm.
So straight away, you're taking an already shitty market share that is hemorrhaging a couple of percentage points every single year,
Yep.
and you're scraping 8% success off it of people who have raised their hand and want an appointment with you.
So so are you saying that the bot is unable to book that appointment for one reason or another?
Yes, or it just can't answer the question and the person hangs up. It's unsuccessful. These are like pure revenue opportunities, not someone who has to be transferred, not someone who is calling for a status check, nothing like that. The intent is to book an appointment. The bot intends and tries to book an appointment, and the customer abandons the flow.
So I'd be curious to know on that 20% that it's not getting done, why is it not getting done? So like me being who I am, I'm going into those calls, I'm listening to them, finding out what's going on, and then I'm calling the customer and getting it back in. Like, hey,
Yeah.
that didn't go the way I wanted it to. I'm so sorry, but we have a bot that's handling the calls, and a lot of times, believe it or not, it's just the education, right? So I think this gets easier as time goes on, right? So how often now in your personal life are you trying to get something done? Book a doctor's appointment, book an appointment for your animals to go to the vet. I'm trying to make a hotel reservation, whatever it may be. How often are you dealing with AI? Now, what I realize is that I can tell if an AI, if the bot is going to be able to handle me or not. So, meaning, is it caged or does it have the allowance to actually think for itself? That's a huge factor, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But I think, what I notice more and more, and I think this is kind of, if you look at the sales side of our business, right? So if we look at variable, boy, do we market well, right? Or at least we get our name out there. We're on the TV, we're on the radio, we're sending email blasts, we're doing this, we're doing that, tent sale that, whatever it may be. But then when it comes to our service side, whether it's a BDC or however it is, there's a complete loss of communication. Like it just doesn't exist anymore. And for me, I don't fault the general managers. I don't fault
No,
the
not at all.
the variable team and the BDC team and everything else. The reason being is they just don't have the exposure to what Fix does. And shame on us all the way back to Ford, where Ford back in the day when they were letting everybody leave because they wanted to do the warranty work and go get your tires at the independent and everything else. We've been fighting the battle ever since, right? But we haven't changed our mentality where the leaders who are calling the shots at the end of the day and who's spending money on the marketing spend and everything else, if they just had an idea of what Fixed actually needs to succeed and how different it is from the variable side, how much better do you think we would be? And would we, how much closer from that 29% to the 80% do you think we could be if everybody was in alignment and understood what it all meant?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting thought pattern. And I will challenge it a little bit. So going
Please
back to
do.
sparring a little, um, I think the foundation of the argument is like we're doing a great job on variable, but I don't know if that's
No,
true.
I don't think we are. I don't think we are. I think we spend more money and throw more shit
Yeah.
at the wall, if you will, to get people to come in and get appointments. That I will, we're not afraid to, all right, let me
Yeah. We're
rephrase.
not afraid
We're
to
not afraid
spend
to
money
spend money
there.
on the variable side to move iron, but we are afraid to spend money to sell hours and parts.
Yeah, and I don't understand why that is because I think on the variable side, 80% or potentially more, I forget the stat, but it's like an alarming percentage, greater than three quarters of a purchasing decision today is led by inventory. So like dealers shouldn't be necessarily advertising their brand. I think they should be advertising their inventory more than anything and like ensuring that it is their inventory that shows up when someone types in like where to buy a 2026 Silverado into ChatGPT or
Mhm.
Gemini. Like optimizing, like you said, not for a search engine, but for basically an LLM.
Yeah.
Um, then I think the question is what is the leading indicator for service? Like, why do people go overwhelmingly to quick lube stations or independent repair shops? Is it transparency? Is it convenience? Is it price? Is it a like I don't know, a distance from their home?
I think it's honestly, I think it's misconception, right? So everybody thinks that the dealer is more expensive.
Mhm.
99 out of 100 times they're not. The other part of it is yeah, I mean, convenience. Do I need an appointment? Do I not need an appointment? And if I do need an appointment, can I actually get one done? Can I actually get one scheduled? So I've been burned so
Mhm.
many times that somebody didn't answer the phone, or I made an appointment and then I didn't. It took too long, whatever it is. So yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions that are out there for consumers of you know I'm going to get taken advantage of and the price is going to be more. I'm going to be there all day for just a quick 30-minute oil change, not realizing the multi-point inspection that goes into it and the full checkup. And, more importantly, the report that goes back to the OEM that said that you were there, that, helps you down the road when you need help from the manufacturer and the car's out of warranty. So, yeah, I think every one of those has a factor, but I think the biggest one, it always comes down to our lack of communication and being transparent about what's going to happen for that guest. And how often do we sell a car and not even introduce them? Like, hey,
Constant.
hey, you bought this car. Believe it or not, there's a place over there that you can service it. They do a really great job, and they're actually not as expensive as you think they are. They offer a package. I mean, God, I was offering a two for 144 package. That can't be beat by anybody. But if my guest doesn't know about it, how do I offer it to them? So, um, so I think a lot of it's communication, and I think a lot of it also comes down to what happened if they did go in service. A lot of these manufacturers, Toyota's still doing it. Hyundai had it, just got rid of it. Kia, or when they buy the car, they have the option to buy prepaid maintenance in the finance office, right? So if we're doing a good job with that, that's an audition.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the retention percentage, that's a tough metric to track. Um because of the opacity after the initial sale. Like, do they even still have that vehicle?
Right.
Have they moved? Have they gone to another state? Um, but I think if we could track that metric, it would be significantly easier to identify a great process. Like, one incredible dealer group that I went to in Columbus, it's called Roush Honda. They have the best customer experience that I've ever seen at a dealership. I hope Casey Brindley, the GM there, knows that he's got something special. Every single person I thought went above and beyond with how they've built processes and the amount of care and attention that they put into the customer experience. I think if more dealers operated like that, there probably wouldn't be a problem. But you know, they've honed this process over years and years of documentation and training, and it's just not easy to do. Like, they've put a ton of effort into it, and I think the results probably speak for themselves there.
Sure.
But how can we turn like a 50% type of customer experience into a 75%? How can we help those who can't help themselves? How can we help dealers who don't have the resources or the know-how, or God forbid, a service manager just retired and a service advisor was promoted in their place? How can we make them successful regardless of how much training or investment they've put into thinking about the customer experience?
Well, I think going back to the Honda, I don't know them yet. I'd like to, because if they're that good,
Great, great place.
I'd like to see the platform. But really, what it comes down to is, I bet you, if you look at it, there's longevity in their employees. There's
Mm.
longevity in their customers because of the longevity. I've been saying that for a long time too. If you have, loyal employees that are there forever, that's going to create loyal customers. But I think more importantly, they've probably pivoted and continued to change and work their processes to whatever those changes are. But I bet you, if you look at the whole scenario, they listen to everybody from the bottom up. And
Yeah.
if you're there as a vendor, then they obviously have the right idea, because you're dialed into making sure that you're doing everything you can to make them better. So, if they have a good tech stack that's working with them to help their teams be able to execute better, I think that's the right formula. And I think that there needs to be more of us like that. So let's continue doing what we do, right? I mean, continue just trying to make us just a little bit better, 1% better than we were yesterday. Just, if we can get to one person per day, and bring them under our umbrella, they're going to teach us. We'll be able to share our experience with them, and everybody gets stronger. And at the end of the day, that's how you get your clients back, and keep them. But I think loyal employees that truly feel cared for and heard, is a huge starting point, right? Because processes are great, but if you have people that are coming in consistently, they have to train those processes too. They don't understand what they are, and just when Joe figures out that this is how this works, but I don't want to do it anymore. Now you got to bring in Sally, and Sally's got to start from day one. So I mean, there's no consistency, and that's what the guest sees. They see the
Yeah.
inconsistencies and they see the lack of consistent performance. And I keep using consistent, but my God, that's what it is, right? It's putting the not same product but the same experience together over and over and over again. And I think that's what you guys are doing at SparkServe, right? You're giving them a great opportunity to get these customers to keep coming back. And you know what? If you're saying that a customer that 48, 60 months ago came in, but you can get one of them back, they just happen to still own the car or whatever it may be, or they have another one of the same brand. But if you're getting that one customer back and they do the right thing with that customer, you're succeeding.
Yeah.
You know,
I completely agree. I think it's a worthwhile pursuit, but right now it feels like Sisyphus pushing a rock up the hill.
yeah,
But
it's a
I do
battle.
believe that we will, overcome that someday.
Yeah, I mean this last year, 2025 was really exciting for me. I got to meet a lot of great people, you included, and really got to hone into people that have the same or similar mindset, or the similar idea of we just need to make everything better, right? And have these good active conversations where we're not going to agree 100% of the time,
No, but that's what I like about it.
but we can have the conversation. How often do you have it where you don't agree and the answer is, all right, well, I'm out. I'm not going to do it again. You and I are going to keep coming back at it and figure out what makes the most sense. And who knows, maybe something that I'm recommending today doesn't work today, and something that you're like, hey, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but that's not here. We have the same conversation 4 months down the road, and you're like, hey, remember when we talked about that? I may have forgotten, but you didn't.
Mhm.
That's partnership. And I look forward to continuing our conversations and pushing each other to be the best that we possibly can. Because man, that's fun, right? And so rewarding, and so many people get to reap the benefits when everybody does that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And frankly, we owe it to the dealers um, to continue to push ourselves to be better, to admit when we're wrong, to take a different approach,
Yeah.
and to pivot when the market needs it.
And in reality, even though we're not customer facing to the end audience, the people that are actually paying are paid. Yeah, the dealers decide to use us, but at the end of the day, their money comes from the clients that come in and give them theirs, right? We owe it to them.
Hmm.
And I think being able to look at it from that standpoint as a vendor or as a partner, if you do that and you look at it and say, hey, your customer is my customer and we got to get here. How do we get that customer to keep coming back, whatever it is? I think that type of thinking is how we get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sense?
Yes.
Well, this has been fun. I knew it would be. We had to play the cat and mouse of who was going to be available when and reschedule here and there and everywhere. But this conversation had to happen, and I'm so excited it has. I know we've talked a lot of times off camera, but I think getting this information out to everybody is great. So man, if you're looking to advance your departments, if you're looking to advance yourself, if you're looking for somebody to network with, MK is absolutely an asset that you need to have in your back pocket. She's a go getter, and I consider her a really good friend at this point. So thank you so much for being on the show, and I know we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, it was an honor and my pleasure. Thank you, Kyle, and to all the folks at Fixed Ops Mastermind for creating a place for learning for everyone in Fixed Ops.
Awesome, thank you.